if we can. Hey everybody, good day to you all. Martin here from Houston. It's 12 o'clock here, so we'll just give everybody a few minutes to get in. We're thin on the ground this morning, but I think we'll give people a couple of minutes to get in. In the usual manner, just while we're waiting, if you could get familiar with the controls, just on the right-hand side, you'll see the white panel there. There is, if you press the chat, there is a chat area at the bottom there. So if you could just put either, well, let's say an R if you're a regular, if you've been here before, or an F if it's your first time, and also where you're coming in from. That would be good. Just to, here's Mary Beth, good old regular. Thank you, MB, and Drew, and Lou. Nice to see you, Lou. And of course, Drew's from Dallas, so that's great. Just give people a couple of minutes. We are thin on the ground a little bit today for this topic, but we'll press on regardless. Yeah, people are coming in now, so yeah, we'll get kicked off. Conscious of people's time. Thanks everybody for joining us again today. This is number 6 in the Lunch and Learn series for commissioning on demand. And really today we're going to talk about an area of the project which, if we don't manage properly up front, can turn into quite a nightmare at the back end. It's all about coordination. It's specialist vendor coordination. Phil's coming in. Thank you, Phil. Nice to see you. You're coming in from Portland. Great. Thanks for being here. So yeah, vendor coordination on the project. Our strapline here at Rev1 Energy is we help projects run smoother, and we've looked at this potential kind of pitfall area, and we've streamlined it a bit in what we call the vertical stack. So we're going to discuss that today, and again, for people that we're going to watch this on demand. It'll be on our website. So that's for people that can't probably make it today. Everybody seems to be wall-to-wall Zooms and webinars these days. So the good thing about on demand is they can watch it at their own leisure. So that's the subject for today, guys. Okay, so let's start to go through this. So yes, as we're saying, this is number 6 in the Lunch and Learn series, the value of vertical integration. We're nearly coming to the end of this sequence. Next week is an interesting week, and we've got our 2 guests today that will help us with this as well as some other people on pre-commissioning. So we're going to have an in-depth look at pre-commissioning next week, which will be pretty interesting. We'll get the full team to do a presentation on what the best practices are currently are with pre-commissioning. So that should be a pretty interesting Lunch and Learn, I would say. And then going into October, 1st of October, we're going to wrap all this up into value maximization and the final overview of what we've been talking about with this technique called commissioning on demand. Okay, here it is. The commissioning on demand logo is in the middle. Just for people's benefit, it's all about the shared vision with the client and the strategic partnership with subject matter experts along the way, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But essentially, there's 3 areas. One is cost efficiency, putting in proposals that meet the overall project. I would say TIC, total install cost, and if it's way above the cost, it's not going to fly anyway. So cost efficiency is very much a key element for today. Value maximization, doing everything that we've done in the past, but maximizing the value to the client using our experienced people and services and state-of-the-art technology. And also risk management, looking at all the risks, mitigating them down for the client to an absolute minimum. Those three elements there all go into the center to what we call commissioning on demand. I don't know if you want to come in there, Ricky, at all with COD concept?
Yeah, really, it's kind of an additive strategy as opposed to a blanket strategy. So we try and focus on providing just what the client needs as opposed to an overall lay a blanket over something and this is all everything that you have to have. So try and tailor it specifically to what the client's looking for, minimize the cost like you said, and overall give a better value to the end user.
Sure. That's good. Okay. And we've got Alan come in. Alan, nice to see you. Thanks for dropping in. By all means, guys, as we go through this, we are trying to make this as kind of interactive. I know we haven't got too many people on here today, but we've got the right people on here, which is great. Please, let's make it as interactive as possible. Quite frankly, it really does help. It helps us and makes it more of an interesting conversation. So please use that chat and chat away, and please ask your questions and comments, and we can pull you up and you can vocalize those as well. So a little bit of housekeeping. We've got the panel. We're going to go over the concept of what the vertical integration and what we call the vertical stack is. We've come up with some objectives for the vertical stack, and then the value, and then some Q&A. And as I say, don't wait till the end. Please just fire away, and we can have the discussion as we go through this. So we feel the vertical stack is something that we can really make a difference on the project. And yeah, let's go. Next one. So we are recording this for the people that can't make it today. They can go and look at it on demand from our website. We do aim for around about 40-45 minutes. We've said that, and everyone up to now has gone over the hour, but we try and cut it at an hour because we're respectful of people's time. Questions, as we said, please put them in the comments. Let's make it as interactive as possible. And then I say handouts, but the session is really available on the website afterwards. And of course, if you've got any further questions or comments, of course, you can always reach out to Ricky or I or Drew there. So yeah, fine. So here's the panel for today. We've got Ricky, our CEO, and we've got Andrew, our director from Dallas. We've got two guests. Pleased to introduce John Gaunt and Lou Do Alessio, and they're coming in and helping us with some kind of just chipping in with some real life examples from projects as well. And myself, of course, Martin Canham, I'm the CDO here at Rev1. Okay, so vertical integration. We call it the vertical stack. What is it? We've come up with a definition here from Wikipedia. It's straight out the internet, so it actually quite fits very well. But thinking about vendor coordination, specialist vendor coordination on the project, all the different vendors that we have to call off. Vertical integration, we've come up with a model here. So let's just pick this to pieces and see how it fits. But vertical integration is an arrangement in which the supply chain of a company is owned by that company. Usually, each member of the supply chain produces a different product or service, and the products combine to satisfy a common need. So really what we've got here, we've got a vertical integration model for the supply chain, not of a company, but for a project. So if you think about CSU as being a contract, commissioning and startup being a contract, what we do is we identify up front all the supply chain and put them into a stack. And we'll show you that we've got a graphic of this later, but basically so let's read that again. Vertical integration is an arrangement in which the supply chain of a CSU project is owned by the CSU contract holder, essentially. So, I don't know if there's any kind of any examples here of, stories from the field, but generally, this can get out of hand pretty quickly. We'll go into that and look at it shortly. But the proactive approach to this seems to be the key to effective management. Usually, each member of the supply chain produces a different product or service, which fits perfectly with what we want. There's flange management, there's catalyst loading, there's steam cleaning, all producing a different service. And the products combine to satisfy a common need, i.e. we want a safe and successful startup. So that's the definition, and that'll help us as we go through this. So, okay. So here's the concept. And please, by all means, chip in here. But our approach, I'm not sure if it's a generalization, but generally the traditional approach to vendor management is very kind of reactive. It's decentralized. It's a little bit scattered. There's some spreadsheets with interpretations from the P6 plan or the project plan, and generally kind of whiteboard driven. I don't know, John, Lou, I don't know if you can kind of elaborate on that from your experience.
I think the earlier we get to the site, the more efficient everything could be taken care of, because we could inject our knowledge as the expert to the site on the various ways of cleaning pipe.
Right.
For instance, there's a lot of areas that have to be chemical clean that we could turn into hydrolasing, which is much cheaper and much more efficient.
Yeah.
If we get to that site early enough and speak to the project managers and lay out a plan proactively, I think it would be beneficial to both the customer and for us.
Got it.
And we find that going to sites early, even before proposals are made, to help lay out the design and the design of even the steam blows it works out to be much more efficient, and in the end it's a cheaper product and it's a better product. And
right.
the results will speak for themselves.
Got it.
Preparation is everything on these jobs, and if you're prepared to do what needs to be done very early on, that makes the project that much easier to obtain a good result.
Thanks for that, Lou. Yeah, proper planning. And you mentioned the word, proactive, which is really our approach now. So,
yep.
Our approach, Ricky and I, when we work this out, is really that if we're the CSU authority or the CSU contract holder, we need to be proactive and really identify upfront from the project plan who's going to be in that stack. And you're right there, Lou. If it's chemical cleaning, you're a guy that needs to be boots on the ground up front.
Yeah, we have a motto. We have a motto in our office: whenever possible, do the other guy's work.
Right.
By doing that, you're not only putting the job in your own hands, but you're introducing a better way to the customer.
Absolutely.
So we try to alleviate the pressure. We try to make sure that when we're on a site, nobody sees it, that nobody talks about us until the job is over, and then they say, "Wow, that was a good job," and you guys, we didn't even see you, which is really important on a site, because that way our plan gets executed, and we don't need a lot of site support. And I think that the least site support that we need, the better off everything ends up.
Right.
So
you're autonomous. You've been there, you've seen it, you've walked it down, you know exactly what's to be done, and all this is part of the approach. Yeah, if you just flick back, please, that's fine. So yeah, what Lou is saying there, just flick back, please, is exactly what we're saying. Proactive, a centralized coordination of specialist vendors with the objective of optimizing the workflow from pre-commissioning through to operations. So, the vertical stack, this concept was born out, as most things are, out of necessity and experience in the field. So yeah, that's kind of the concept. So I hope everybody gets the concept. It's proactive. It's looking at all the specialist vendors that you'll need on a project up front, and then what we call the vertical stack. So
I think there's an important distinction to make too, is that what we're trying to do is create a single focal point for every item that needs to be done, from a pre-commissioning to operations, standpoint, and that single focal point can then coordinate and integrate into each piece of work that helps manage and communicate, track, and report on all of that stuff that needs to be done, which in turn makes it more efficient.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Just see Mr. Diggins coming in there from Australia. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. I don't know what time it is in the morning, time of day it is with you, but we really appreciate you being here. Thanks for that. Okay, now there's some values that go along with this vertical stack. I think we've all been on projects before where we've used who we've used before, and probably not, obviously there's some merit in that, but it's probably just worth looking at the values that we need to go forward with. It's almost like a partnership on this vertical stack. We're all owning a piece of that vertical integration model. So of course we could probably brainstorm this for half an hour and come up with a different set, but certainly here's some to go on with. Trust. We've all got to trust that we've got the right person for the right job, the right company for the right job. You're there because you're the best in class at what you do for that piece of the vertical integrated model. And along with that comes a lot of trust. So trust can't be earned in one day. It's got to be developed over time. The usual adage is, people have got to like you, know you, and then trust you, and you can't get there in one day. And that's why relationships are really crucial to everything and underpin everything that we do. So collaboration, we've all got to work together. We've got to have a common goal. So for the vertical stack, what is the common goal for the project? Where do we play? What part do we play in bringing that home? And then we've got to collaborate. Best man for the job. Doesn't matter about individuals and personalities. It's best man for the job. Quality. I think this is one that's close to your heart, Lou. Quality is king, eh?
Yep. Quality is everything.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that at the end of the job, there's no callbacks. And I think that all goes together with the early planning and actually proceeding with the plan and making sure that the result is the correct result.
Yeah.
There's different areas in our aspect of work that you could check on at the end. Our goal is to ultimately save the site enough money in our actions by getting complete on time, doing the job well enough to shut down the steam blows in half or a quarter of the time, which saves them a lot of demin water. So all of that goes into quality. If you do a quality job, the end result is going to really be in favor of you, because there's a lot of times we walk off a job and we actually tell the project manager, you got us for free, because we saved you a couple of million gallons of demin water, and we saved you 32 days of steam blows.
Right.
So that all comes into quality, and that's the reason why the quality of your daily work is really, really important. It can't be just the end result, because the end result comes with you doing your job every single day and making sure that there's checks and balances of everything that's done on a daily basis. So the end result speaks for itself.
Got it. Yeah.
Also, the quality helps to build the trust.
It does.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Reliability. We know who we can trust.
Yep.
Yeah. We get a good job from these guys every time. It's not just doing the job. The job's done. Well, the preparation's done, as you said before. The quality's done. The execution's done, and the paperwork's done. So yeah, that builds the trust for sure.
And the paperwork is the most important thing, because that's where the invoice goes.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed. Communication, key. You'll see shortly that we've got, on the vertical integrated model, it all rolls up to a individual. Communication could be key. I don't know. Hey, Drew, I think you've got some kind of comment on how communication can go wrong with calling off specialist vendors, and why it should be kind of centralized.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw examples of this on multiple projects, but one in particular, we were doing an offshore rig. The vendor management was being handled by an onshore group, and they got out of alignment with the schedule and started sending vendors out to the platform via helicopter on a very tight space for living quarters, and the vendors were showing up 3 and 4 weeks before we needed them. We couldn't house them there on the flotilla. We just didn't have room. There was nowhere to put them. We didn't have room for their equipment, so we had to put them back on the helicopter. It's quite an expensive round trip. That was happening fairly frequently. So what we discovered was they're using spreadsheets. The spreadsheets got out of date. The scheduler wasn't up to date on what was going on. The right people weren't talking to each other. So what we ended up doing was doing away with a spreadsheet, making a web-based application for everybody to see when the vendors were needed. So we could, as the commissioning team out on the flotilla, out on the rig, could take a look at it, see that a vendor was scheduled to come out in a week, and give the guy, the field coordinator there on land for bringing in the vendors, give them the thumbs up or thumbs down, and they could arrange it and get it going back on track. But yeah, for a good month and a half, we were vendors were just showing up in our office after a helicopter ride and saying, "Hey, we're here." It's like, we are not ready for you. So they had head back. Yeah.
Think about the through life cost, the extra cost for the project for that inefficiency. That's what we're trying to eliminate. So thanks for that, Drew. Great. Of course, integrity, doing what we're supposed to do and doing it right, and not cutting corners and not scrimping the paperwork at the end of the day and running off. Honesty is fairly obvious now, but accountability, being accountable for your area of expertise on the vertical integrated model. Learning, building that back in, so we're getting better all the time. And it's all pointed really at that last bullet point, which is, increase the customer experience. The customer satisfaction and the experience is very, very key to repeatable and getting more work at the end of the day. So that's the values. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Any questions or any queries? Just please fire away in the comments box, and we can discuss them. But yes, the vertical stack, here it is after the massive build-up. This is kind of it. And as you can see, nothing magical about it. It is basically a stack of supply chain companies, services that are crucial to a successful CSU contract. So there are other things as well, for refineries, there's like catalyst loading and what have you, but certainly test equipment, flange management. We've got some HR and logistics as well, some operator training, some software, obviously the commission execution, the pre-com cleaning, and also the planning and preparation. That's kind of the vertical stack. Now, the vertical stack will be different for every project, of course, but if Rev1 are the CSU contract holders, we have this, and we produce this for every project, make it very, very visible up front, who's in that stack, have JVs and partnerships with the relevant people. And the good thing is the client gets one invoice at the end of the day for all those services, not 32 invoices. So yeah, we've taken the definition. The vertical stack there on the left-hand side is an arrangement in which the CSU supply chain for a project is owned by that CSU supply company. So we take responsibility for it, we own it, and we make sure that people appear on the dates that we want them to appear, and do the right job, leave the right paperwork, and move on from there. That's the whole concept. Okay. So yeah, just breaking it down a little bit into plan, do, check, and improve on the plan side. Of course, for each different project, we've got to get in there early. We've got to have a look at all the contract documentation and the kind of high-level plans and determine who we need in the vertical stack. Then we've got to get the contracting strategy and agreements in place and all that kind of administration all taken care of. The good thing is the more you do, the less you've got to do on this, because it's people that you know and trust, and you just simply form the, shuffle the cards as need be for that particular project. And then, very important, set the expectations. We've talked about the values and the outcomes. So for the project, what are the expectations and what are the outcomes that we desire? That's really the plan. Anything else, guys, from plan that we can think? I think that's probably the top and bottom of it, really, how we plan it. Okay. The do is then, one thing we didn't mention. Maybe Ricky could just flick back to the vertical stack for a second. That's it. So Drew, all these services historically report through to the commissioning manager, CSU manager. But what we'd have is, obviously we have the, to one side we'd have the database coordinator, and also we have the vertical stack coordinator. On smaller projects, that could be one person. On larger projects, it could be two people. But can you talk to that just a little bit?
Yeah, it all goes back to a common focal point. So the commissioning manager is ultimately responsible for the overall CSU project. So they're at all the applicable meetings. They know typically in and out what's going on with all the disciplines. So when you have that one focal point, and then like you said, you have a couple people underneath them, like the startup engineer, the turnover coordinators, the discipline coordinators. They're running their individual departments, but they are reporting back to the commissioning manager. So when you get into instances where there are schedule shifts, like out on the platform, when we totally shifted our startup and commissioning plan from getting the utility items commissioned, we shifted over to quarters habitable instead. That threw a huge wrench in the plan. With the commissioning manager at the top there, he can distribute that information to the applicable people, make sure it trickles down and the changes get affected. That's where we ran into that communication issue with the vendors. So they were calling off vendors based off the original plan. They weren't aware of the new plan. So with the commissioning manager straight there at the top and then directly disseminating the information on a daily basis, it allows everybody that's operating under that stack to stay aligned. So you don't get those divergences. When it's more of a horizontal and everybody's off to the side and there's not a common focal point, that's where you run into issues, because that communication can break down fairly easily. And that's when you run into $100,000 mistakes or more. Yeah.
Okay, great. And again, like Alan or Chris, I know Chris has had his microphone taken out of his computer for security reasons, but anybody that's has got experience on this, that could see a benefit of pulling all this into a vertical stack, please just fire away with your questions there or comments.
Yeah, Phil just put something down, actually. It's very solid.
Yeah, great. Oh yeah, so on planning, there's an impulse on new power projects to produce aggressive schedules, right? Unrealistic schedules drive bad decisions. Wow, yeah, that's true. This aggressive scheduling leads to vendors being misinformed about when to come to site. Yeah. I don't know if we can we bring Phil in just to elaborate on that? Do we have the way for all to do that?
I think so.
Pending. Good. Looks like we're here. He comes.
Okay.
Hey,
Phil, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Hey,
So the controls on this dashboard are a little more complex than a combined cycle power plant, it seems.
I know.
It takes a bit
You
of
need
learn
a
them.
pilot's license.
So the point I was making, and it goes back to what Andy's been saying all along here too, is that, and all of us know, this impulse from owners and from project managers on new power projects is that They want the most aggressive schedule that they can possibly have. The last project I was on, the word was blue sky schedule. I want a blue sky schedule. I want all the float taken out of it. I want this to show us the most aggressive dates that we can possibly get. And the reason that they want this is because they take it to the financiers, the bankers, and management up the line, and they want to give them just the best possible story that they can about how their project is going. Everybody wants to look successful. All right, so the point is, making an aggressive schedule leads to these bad decisions, which is that when you've got a vendor, and my favorite example is bypass valve guys. So when we finish with steam blows, when we finish with all the pre-operational cleaning, we need to bring the valve guys out to take the blow trim out and put the permanent trim in. And these guys need weeks of lead time. Some of these valves are supplied by Europeans, so they have to have technicians that have to get visas, they have to travel internationally. And so we've got an aggressive schedule out here that says, oh yeah, we're going to be all done with pre-operational cleaning and we're going to be ready for this guy on November 1st. And in fact, we're not going to be ready for him on November 1st. We're not going to be ready for him for 6 weeks after that, maybe. And yet here he is working towards this aggressive schedule. And this goes back to just what Drew was saying. So when we get to this planning stage and the communication part of it, if we are the leaders of the commissioning and startup, we have to have this come to Jesus discussion with the project manager and the owner that an unrealistic schedule serves no one.
No purpose.
It just isn't. We can make 2 schedules if we have to. I'd question the wisdom of that, but you know, if you've got to have 1 schedule to take to the bankers, talk about that. But we got to have a realistic schedule that we can actually work to, and especially when it talks about spending big money. As Drew rightfully pointed out, you know, bringing a guy in from Germany, you have to when he gets here 4 weeks before you're ready for him is a huge cost. And whether you send him back and bring him again, or you put him up in a motel for all that time and pay his wages, nobody builds that into their cost breakdown. That's
the point.
So that to me is one of the things I struggle with all the time on trying to get owners and project managers to let's accept a realistic schedule. Yeah.
No, thanks for that, Phil. And really, it's not their fault, is it? If they've been misinformed, they're only doing what they've been told to do.
Oh, exactly. So
it's an internal project problem that we can rectify with a bit of foresight, is the point. So thank you for coming in on that, Phil. Much appreciated. Drew said, do you want to just mention that, Drew? On, you know, what you've just made a comment there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So on one of my first commissioning jobs, it was a combined cycle plant up in Ohio. It's working with a really senior veteran commissioning manager, Harry Surratt. Just out on the smoke pad, talking to him, talking to the new guy. Was the new guy. He's like, you know how long it takes to build one of these things? About 20 years ago? I'm like, no, I have no idea. He's like, it was 18 months starting to scrape dirt till you actually turn over to the owner. He's like, and that was usually a realistic schedule. He's like, nowadays, though, they're scheduled to be done in 12 months. You know how long it takes? I'm like, no idea. He's like, it still takes 18 months. It's like, you can't scrape dirt, weld pipe, do all this stuff any quicker than you normally would. But the schedules are shifting. They're becoming more aggressive to save money, show how we're going to cut costs. But you end up paying overtime, and it actually ends up costing more with an aggressive schedule than a realistic schedule. The old Navy adage was 10 women can't have 1 baby in 1 month. So throwing people at it usually isn't the answer.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. That's good. Ricky, if you could get back to the slides, please.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
Thanks. So yeah, that was a point well made. Just flick on a couple, I think, Ricky. We're onto the plan. So yeah, that's all about. I mean, when you break it down, and that's what we try and do, we're trying to, map the process and optimize the process. There's no reason why we shouldn't have realistic dates for those things that Phil is alluded to there. Misinforming the clients is very much avoidable. So knowing when to call off is key, having somebody responsible for that. And obviously clear communication of what they need to do and how they need to report it is all part of that doing process. Okay. And then, of course, on the check side, the vendors come out, they do their particular work, and then either fill in the paperwork, the check sheets, the reports. It's subject to QA, QC verification. The deliverables are checked. The walk down's been done. We check it all out and make sure that the deliverables end up in the right areas, whether that's a database or the project report or whatever. So there is obviously that checking function that we take responsibility for as well. We don't just let them come and go and then work out, oh, well, they didn't leave any reports. We take responsibility for that as a CSU contract holder. Okay. Don't know if anybody's got any questions on that, but that's fairly straightforward, I think. And then, of course, one thing that we tend to, we talk about improvement, but we tend to kind of skip over, but, this should be inherent in every process. The last step is to go back and examine what we've done and where we can improve, feed it back into the vertical stack for next time. So build that into our systems and procedures for next time. So yeah, we've had a look at the concept, the definition, and we've had a look at the vertical stack. We've had some good examples there of why we need to really have a step change in how we manage the suppliers. And we're moving now onto the vertical integration benefits. Here's some, by all means not exhaustive, but makes sense. These are just common sense, but centralized coordination. So instead of the war room meeting in the morning and people taking notes and taking those back to their own desks and putting them on the whiteboards or putting them on a spreadsheet, no, this is all centralized. There's somebody that sits on top of the vertical stack that's responsible for it, and all the communications go in and out of that one person. In the vertical stack, we've got the best in class provision. So we've done the beauty contests. We know who we can trust, and those people, time served, they can provide the service time and time again. Streamlined communication, we've talked about, the guy at the top. Streamlined data, very, very important. So instead of vendors coming in and sending reports in and leaving reports here, there, and everywhere, in goods receipt, or actually on the work site, in the tea cabin, whatever, no, it's all centralized to the vertical stack coordinator. Transparency. One common resource. So I think that was a good point you made yesterday, Drew. Do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's providing one tool for everybody to see what's going on with the project, rather than what John pointed out with everybody's got their own whiteboard with their own information. When you move those whiteboards into a common data structure, and it's web-based and everybody can see the same thing, you now have one common resource. So you're not worried about outdated data. It's all live, updated, collaborative environment. So that brings just a transparency to the overall project and gets rid of a lot of surprises. You're no longer impacted by the guy who went on vacation for 2 weeks and forgot to turn something over. That information is readily available inside the system. So we tried to take a lot of the whiteboard and spreadsheet items and move them into a database resource that's visible live on the net, so everybody can see what everybody's doing.
Yeah, great. And we built that into our software solutions, Drew, as well. So it's all part of the common platforming.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. And of course, with all these vendors going around, HSE, extremely important. We're responsible for that as well. So yeah, all coordinated and not left to chance. One big advantage here for the client is it's one contract. Cuts down on all their contract administration, I would say. and one invoice for the CSU in its entirety. So big advantage for that. And again, you know, why we're doing this is to give the customer a better experience. So make the processes simpler, optimized, and better results at the end of the day. So a better customer experience. Any comments, any thoughts? If not, we can move on. So yeah, I think we're kind of coming to the end. I think we've given it a good, you know, shake of the lamb's tail, as it were. You know, we've discussed it all. If there are any last comments or questions, please fire away. But yeah, this is all part of the commission on demand kind of concept and ethos, which is, you know, cost efficiency, value maximization, and risk management, all aimed at getting, you know, a better result for the client at the end of the day for these next phase of projects that are going to be coming through. So we're eliminating waste, we're eliminating duplication, we're streamlining our processes, and we're adding maximum value to these projects. That's the whole concept. Okay. Okay, so I think we're kind of getting to the end. We're a little bit, well, we're 40 minutes in, so we're kind of just on time here. Probably one of the shorter sessions that we've had, but still okay. So yeah, just to recap, if that's okay with everybody, you know, we went through the definitions of vertical stack and vertical integration. We had a look at the concepts and the case for keeping as is, which I don't think is a case, and the case for change, which is, you know, centralized, proactive, stacking them all vertically, putting them all under the CSU contract, and then manage them and take responsibility for them. We looked at the value of the vertical integration in terms of the benefits, and then we've also had some good interaction, I would say. Thanks for everybody there that chipped in, and we had a look at some real life examples. So, yeah, I think that's probably the vertical stack conversation. Okay, Ricky? Okay, and again. So yeah, next week will be a really interesting week, and please spread this out. Help us to grow this audience by word of mouth if you could. Pre-commissioning is the topic of conversation next week, and that's one that I'm particularly looking forward to. We're going to have a look at all the different techniques and best practices and how we can, again, add maximum value during pre-com cleaning to the project. Okay. Next one, Ricky. And again, if this format is of any interest to you, we'd like to just recommend that you go along to the website here. I think we can put that in the chat, Emma, but CPS 2020 is a day's forum online, can access it anywhere in the world. It's the Commissioning Professional Society, and we've got something like 300 people plus, all descending on the virtual event. All those little people have been milling round. It's quite a sight to behold, to be honest. If you go through to the exhibitors hall, you can see all the exhibitors. You have a virtual briefcase, and you can pick up information just like you were at a real exhibition. And you speak on video to representatives from all the exhibitors that we've got there. Plus, there's a full itinerary of really good topics that you can get involved with as well. So we'd certainly recommend that you do that. 2nd of October. It's coming up very quick now. Yeah, so please. Yep.
Attendees from 26 different countries will be descending on CPS, so it's pretty exciting.
That's really cool. Yeah. We thought at first going virtual was we're going to go virtual. Now we're really pleased because we've gone global with it. So it should be really interesting. So we certainly recommend that you take a look at that website there and spread the word for us if you wouldn't mind, please. Some big players there. Okay, well, thank you again. We very much appreciate your time. It's time to go. Just coming up to 3/4 of an hour there, 45 minutes. And again, we'd like to, just extend the invitation for next week for pre-commissioning cleaning. When we come to the end of these lunch and learns, the format is going to change slightly, which we're very excited about. We've got a format that I think you'll really enjoy. So it's a cross between a podcast and a vlog and a webinar, and I think it's going to be something that's going to really shake the industry up. So very exciting. More to come on that later, but for the time being, I'd like to thank the panel. Thank you for your comments, and for people that have made the comments, again, thank you, and also for everybody that's been on here today. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye for now.